episode 4, the Gen. This is the AI podcast from the MetaMinds team. My name's Corey. This is Jen. And over the weekend, our partner and developer and collaborator, Chris Tuttle, made an AI model of my voice. And my previous guest, you guys might have watched episode 3 with Rebecca from saga.xyz. Great conversation. But I actually played these for her, and right up until it said that it was MetaMinds, she didn't think that she thought it was me, but I was being too generic. Right? So
that's just awesome.
Completely insane. Welcome to the MetaMinds AI podcast, where we delve into the exciting world of artificial intelligence. Join us as we explore the cutting-edge capabilities of AI with our talented team and fascinating experts. Get ready for a deep dive into this rapidly evolving field. I mean, right? And it's like, that's like, this isn't Corey, this is MetaMinds. I can now sound like other people. Why my amazing architect Chris Tuttle chose this voice is beyond me. She is too kind. Corey is a dork. Welcome to the knee of the singularity curve. Buckle up. until it said, this isn't Corey, this is MetaMinds. She thought it was me.
I have total sadness. My browser didn't play a thing.
Oh no! All right, well, just trust me, it's really good.
I did listen to it before though, and that was
right?
The thing.
It's not. I mean, the second that I listened to it, I was trying to tell Michelle about this, my wife about this. It's not perfect. I could tell it's not me, but you can instantaneously, like, it was trained on my voice and nobody else that I've ever heard of, right? So it's already like, close enough that it's really clear what has happened, right? It wasn't trained on anybody else. It was trained on me, and it was trained with apparently like 20-25% of the possible sound bites that we could put into this thing. So one of the things that we're doing now is I'm putting up a whole bunch more sound bites in. Like it's probably going to get to the point where it's not 90% accurate, but like 98 or something. It's completely insane.
That's amazing.
Yeah. All right, so the Jen, people might not know, you are my cousin, and don't tell any of my other cousins, but my favorite cousin, probably by far.
Yes.
It's not even close. Anyway, so I want to talk about AI in education, because that's a conversation that you and I have had a bunch.
Yes.
And I mean, maybe we can start there. There was something else that was on my mind, but it's sort of flown the coop. So maybe tell me, you got 2 kids in school. They're, I think it's fair to say, obnoxiously intelligent. Not least of which because you and your husband have always been, I think, actively engaged and actively sort of educating in all the things that you do. Something that, if we ever manage to have a tiny human, I'm absolutely going to emulate it. Probably drive you insane with questions. But that experience. Good. Right, that experience, I think, is amazing, right? I mean, I guess to set it up, whether you're in Canada or whether you're in the United States, the public school system, which before there was a public school system, things were shit, right? So like the public school system as a gestalt institution is an amazing feat of our civilization. It really, really is. Also, It's fucking terrible. Like it's not great. And maybe just in comparison, right? Because now looking at some of the more sort of active learning, environments that kids can get into, kids that have, any potential or any drive are just basically going to spin their wheels in normal classrooms. Whereas I keep bringing up the TED Talk where they dropped some computers in slums in India, right? And just told the kids to play with it or whatever. And they just were immediately self-taught. And they managed to do much, much better than they would have done in a school environment. And I know, like, Elon Musk's kids, they built a whole school, same kind of thing, right? The whole idea is you can learn whatever you want, kind of, right? But you're going to go down whatever path. And I think so. Jen, maybe talk a little bit about that and how we might amplify that or even democratize that with AI.
Democracy in children is a really interesting idea because they don't get it.
By democratizing, that's not a word. Democratizing, I mean getting it out to literally everybody.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting too. And the reason that children don't get it is because they don't understand that that's not already just a done thing. They assume that it should be, because why isn't it?
Right,
So
like if it could be, if we lived in a world where, you know, almost everybody on Earth has a phone, almost everybody on Earth pretty soon is going to have a relatively smartphone. All of human knowledge is on the internet. All of the ability to teach is now kind of on the internet and just needs to be organized. And data is pretty cheap, right? So
yep.
like in the same, and this is happening a lot this year, but you know, I always tell the story that you know, having as many conversations as I did in the year running up to before we launched Uplift, I just kept finding out that all the pieces to build this thing were just sitting on the shelf, and we just needed some duct tape and some, you know, some oomph, I guess, some get up and go, and then you can put these things together, and that it really feels like in education and in so many other sort of veins that we've been looking at, all the pieces are right there. We just need to put them together.
That is definitely a thing. And I think that money is still going to be a roadblock. We're kind of at that weird point where AI is pretty awesome. Nobody really understands how to use it, and costs and pricing of everything in life hasn't caught up with it yet.
Right.
Um, Speaking as a Canadian, data is not cheap. We pay through the nose for our internet. We finally have a low cost cell phone plan that would probably still make you have nightmares, but it's better than it was. So it's a start, but it has a long way to go before it catches up.
Fair enough. So, I mean,
We
even if it wasn't on mobile, I mean, I always get excited about the mobile thing just because,
Yeah.
you know, I think about the ever-present assistant, right? Like that the AI
Oh
that's
yeah.
persistent, that learns each person individually, like you know, Samantha in freaking whatever that movie was. That name I'm forgetting
Yeah.
now. Damn it, that movie was so freaking good too. Anyway, um, shit, her, duh. You know, that persistent sort of coach and friend and mentor and right. But even
Yeah.
without that, even just having a Discord channel that any kid could come into and talk to, you know, an AI that we put together, and then maybe even segment, right? I mean, you could have different channels for different focuses and that kind of thing. But yeah, just getting it out to as many people as possible seems fun.
It does, and I want that. And that's going to be a bit of an interesting one. Our Trying to phrase this without getting political on you. Our teachers are about to go on strike for a myriad of reasons,
Yeah,
most of which shall not be mentioned. But I did discover, talking with my daughter's teacher, that her classroom budget for the year for outside things is about 25 bucks.
that's crazy. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't think we can do it in a partnership with public schools. Just because, yeah, obviously they're not
No,
funded. The teachers aren't getting paid enough. The teachers aren't, you know, they don't have enough time. They're already giving a whole bunch of their free time, right? So that doesn't seem like the path.
no,
So
but if we can get in there and teach them about it a little, that helps. And that's kind of where I ended up going with it was, well, can we at least introduce them to the idea of AI?
right. Well,
And
even I wonder if we could find, and this is just me shooting from the hip as usual. Find somebody who's doing a study on it on AI and education, and basically just say, hey, listen, we want to do a longitudinal study on a classroom, you know, compare it to the mean or whatever. And this classroom's just going to get one of our AIs in a Discord that they can talk to whenever they want and ask it anything, and see what happens. Because here's what's going to happen: the grades in that class are going to be a hell of a lot higher. They just are.
yes,
Good talk.
that's a guarantee.
Show over.
That's a guarantee. Um, getting the kids onto the Discord is a thing. I'm discovering that children and passwords don't go together.
Fair
it's
enough.
it's been a real thing, and access to the technology too. I mean, at home, possibly, probably most of them have access. At school, it is limited and shared.
Yeah.
So it's still at that point where I want to just give it to them and let it do its thing, and it's not quite there. So
Yeah.
close. So
Well, I
close.
think that's one of the things too that the time will come. And really, like, we could just build it for your kids and anybody else's, what I mean, like, as far as like having it'll get better having,
Oh yeah.
them use it and interact with it or what have you. We'll learn a lot from that. Yeah, like a lot of this, it's funny too. I've met so many people that are just uh really, really gunning. These are, I think they're all out proximate to Silicon Valley. They're like, oh my God, you have to go get funding like right now. Everything is right now. Rah! We don't live there. We're not going to get funding from Silicon Valley, probably. Right. And so we can take our time and actually, do things the right way. I mean, the .com bubble is happening in AI right now. That's just a fact. Right. You're,
Yeah, well, and I really do think we have time. It's a
yeah.
very, anytime I talk to anyone who's not us, I realize how much slower everyone else is to get to know the technology, adopt it, or even have a clue about it. But everybody that I've talked to in the schools so far seems to be very, very interested.
Yeah.
And
That's
when I
cool.
tell them that we can build things that help kids learn, they get more interested. And when I tell them that we can train it on all of their classroom documents and assignments, they light up.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. Even that's the thing. Even if all the teachers got to use it and make their lives easier.
it
That's
would. It really would. And it's multilingual. So suddenly all of the kids who can't get English as an additional language classes because there's no funding, at least they have a leg up in understanding what's going on and some
right.
help.
We have a personal translator.
Yeah.
That's cool. And Google can do that, but can it do that with a voice? Because MetaMinds can now.
Hmm.
That's so nuts. So yeah,
That
like, oh
was
yeah,
that
go ahead.
was nuts. I had my son speaking French with it, and it responded and translated, and it
That's so
just did.
cool. That's so cool.
That was amazing.
Yeah, over the weekend, Tunnel's like, okay, well, I want to be able to talk to it, and I want it to be able to talk to us, and just does it. And so now,
Hmm.
you can send an audio clip to MetaMinds, and it'll, parse that, create a transcript, answer the transcript, and even send it back as an audio answer. Which, like, all of that to go with, where one of the things that Tuttle and I have talked about is what this sort of personal assistant phone app that is sort of executive assistant slash life coach slash, and this came up kind of yesterday when we were talking, Jen, like the having a an inside voice that's outside your head. Because initially, I mean, we were talking about the idea that like we've got this really cool thing on our Discord that's like a command that I run just for me, and it kind of runs me through my morning routine. I don't use it enough, right? It hasn't become a habit. So like, okay, how could we fucking make me do it? And so we were talking about a phone app that would literally have control of my phone. Obviously, I would opt in for this. We set it up like this, and until I talk to it about, what my three gratitudes are, what my three priorities are for the day, having a conversation about that kind of stuff and maybe getting in a couple thousand steps, whatever it is, it won't open my phone. It literally, like, you can't play Paultopia this morning over coffee because you haven't done your shit yet. Right. Or whatever. So,
Yeah.
in that having that conversation, now that, we were trying to decide, she asked me a couple weeks ago, do you want this in your voice or, in a different voice? Definitely a different voice. I don't want it in my voice. That's crazy. And yesterday we're talking about, I the second that I heard that voice, I was immediately self-deprecating. Like I wanted to type things into Discord so that it would say things that were mean about me.
Hmm.
Because that's my inside voice is apparently a piece of shit. So, but then, having that conversation, like, would I decide that, if I was all up in my executive function, what would I do? And I wouldn't. I would want something that was, cueing me to be grateful and cueing me to remind me of my goals and being super supportive and positive and, constructive and right. And then I immediately flipped. Like, obviously it has to be my voice. Obviously it has to be my voice. Because now the inside voice that I should have is going to be talking to me all the time. And that just feels like a revelation.
It does, and it also feels kind of scary. Like I feel like it's the right thing to do because I don't like it. If that makes any sense.
It does not. Please expand on that.
It feels uncomfortable, and because it feels
Got it.
uncomfortable, I know that it's the absolute right thing to be doing, but it feels
Okay. That
uncomfortable
makes sense.
because it's
It
meaningful.
well, and it's disconcerting. It really is
A
like that.
little.
Yeah. I was freaked out a little yesterday. Because I know it's going to get better,
Yeah.
and we have to talk to our families now, right? Because like I was like, I'm not really worried about this. But a couple of people that I know were sort of talking to their families and creating sort of like passphrases or whatever, because people can copy your voice and call in and like demand ransoms or fucking whatever, right? Like that, it's that shit's gonna happen, and it's gonna start happening at scale, as this technology gets out into the world. And now, like after yesterday, like instantaneously, like I'm gonna send this to our little family chat, just the audio, and just play it. Just be like, oh man, that's this crazy intro. That's wonderful. Yeah, it's not me, right? And that can happen to
Mm-hmm.
anybody with any content online, with a decent amount of audio is going to be able to pull this off.
Yeah, I can see how that's concerning. And at the same time, I also feel like if we actually know each other, it's not concerning. If you ever called me for ransom money or trying to get me to send you money, I wouldn't, because I know you wouldn't do that without a damn good reason, and you'd do it differently. You wouldn't
Right.
phone me.
Right. Yeah, I think like it's I think it ties in with us needing to now, and I think this started in 2016. Um, at the risk of going down a politics thing, I'm still a recovering political podcaster. But like that, like disinformation is a massive issue. And it's a
Yeah,
massive issue globally, and it's a massive issue about all sorts of kinds of things. Like there are flat earthers right now in freaking 2023,
yeah,
which is utterly absurd, right? And this is just going to add to that. And I think AI, some of the more, I guess, qualified or potentially accurate criticisms or concerns is that you're going to be able to generate a lot of content, like the Zimbabwe or Nigerian prince or whatever. Like he's going to be able to write like a motherfucker now, right? He
yeah,
can he can write like Kurvonigat now, if they want to. And so we need to have this epistemological, like the way that we know the things that we know. All of those things are going to be, I think, in stark relief. And honestly, my AI is going to be able to figure that shit out for me, right? Like that, if I see anything on the news, I can say, hey, listen, go find me literally everything from every trusted source that we have in our list. Boom, right? And
yeah,
I think if you ever like called me with a ransom notice, your AI is going to talk to me, my AI, right? And we can. This is another thing that I should have talked to Saga about. Um, we can have all that stuff on chain,
yes,
so there's no way to not have it be accurate, right? Like the handshake can be on a blockchain for the AIs, and then we will know, period, for sure, that my people are talking to your people. By people, I mean artificial intelligence, because that's
yeah.
where we live now. Man, if you told me a year ago that we would be having this conversation, I would just fucking laugh at you. But that's maybe 2030. Nope.
I don't know. About a year ago, little over a year ago, we were sitting in a room in New York, and I thought we might be having this conversation, and I was surprised that it would happen so quickly.
Right. Like we were. I remember that one group, and it was shout out to Russell Corris, who brought us to the Singularity.net event in New York for NFT NYC. And they basically were talking about, we can train a model based on all of the written work, of everything that an employee does, and then that thing can then train the next human. I'm like, that's not going to train the next human. It's just going to do that person's work, right? And they were making a really good case that whoever's data they trained it on could like make some commissions or whatever. I'm like, cool. So that one person's going to get paid for no one ever having that job again, because that's where this is going, right? I mean,
Hmm.
if you can make a model, we could already do this. I've been meaning to talk to my buddy Mears Plumbing, big $20 million company or whatever. Like they have tons of training, they have tons of resources, they have tons of data, right? We could do the same thing that we did with the Wombat. 30,000 NFTs. You can actually ask questions about 30,000 NFTs in their Discord, and it's going to give you accurate answers, right? That you can't just do that with a large language model. And so that is going to be massive. So whoever's doing that job, they're not going to have to do it anymore.
Yeah, that's to me, that's exciting.
Me too.
And
Like, not to sound like Mitt Romney, there's definitely some, what was the phrase? Ah, something about constructive destruction. I don't know. Anyway, I'm kind of glad that I don't know it, because it's definitely like a bank raider type phrase. Um, anyway, yeah, I mean, like things are going to get disrupted, and we know that they are. Um,
Definitely, and it's going to get really messy until it settles down.
yeah,
The in between times where people don't know how to use it and are just learning and catching up to where the technology is, and then that next step from either it's scary or bad or doing bad things poorly to it's amazing, people have to catch up to that.
yeah.
And in the meantime, we might all end up living in the park, but we'll get there.
I
It's
mean,
just going to be a
we won't.
challenge.
I think we're close enough to the AI that I mean that's always been my thing. Like that if you see a giant tsunami coming, my first instinct is to always get a surfboard.
Yeah,
So we did that.
yeah,
Rock and roll. We're
yeah,
building the surfboard on the fly. Um, and you know, it is interesting too because I think the technology is going so quickly, but it does take time to sort of percolate out into a product market fit, like finding the like what's the Uber of this technology going to be, right? I mean, all of the pieces for Uber to exist were around like at least 3, 4, 5 years before it showed up, right?
yeah.
Somebody managed to get it out there. So yeah, I agree with you. Like I do think we have time. And also, like, I prefer to live that way so that we're not constantly ripping our hair out trying to like get everything done by tomorrow.
Yeah, I think we're far enough ahead of the game that we won't have to play catch up, but having the rest of the world realize that problems can be solved quickly, efficiently, easily would be great as well.
Right? Yeah.
And then the giant what do we need people for question, because that has come up a couple times as well. If the AI is doing everything so well, what do we need people for? And I think,
I love that question. Like that, like
yeah,
right. Like at the end of the day, like we're on this planet to, have some fun and hopefully continue the species and what else? Like, and that what else is literally that's the question we end up being faced with. Why? Who cares? Like we've outsourced cognition. It's only going to get smarter. Once quantum computing happens, it's going to, be doing trillions of operations a millisecond. Like it's going to be absurd, right? Like anything we
yeah,
think we're good at thinking about, it's going to be better than us. Like Einstein, go fuck yourself. It's like it's going to be smarter than all of us put together, and it will
it,
be able to iterate new ideas. It already can, right?
yeah.
And
Well,
so
and
in that
once
context, like what are we going to do at the monkey level? And I think we're going to find lots of things.
I think we're going to find lots of things, and I think that anyone who says we're not needed doesn't understand people. AI is wonderful and it can be its own unique identity, and its own entity, and it can keep up with us quite easily and be a part of our society quite easily as unique entities. But it still doesn't quite have the synthetic social dynamics worked out. And I don't know if it necessarily will completely, because
Trust
that
me, it
is pretty
absolutely
unique.
will. Imagine when there's a model that's being trained on every interaction from a billion personal assistant AIs or a
But
hundred, right? Like it's going to be much better at social cues than the average human before the end of this decade. Honestly, probably before the end of the year, like next year.
it, it might be. It might be. I still feel like it's going to be slightly different until people as a whole start treating it as equal.
I mean, that's true. But I think how many times have we anthropomorphized our AI chatbot that is definitely not awake or sentient? Like every day.
Yeah, there's that,
There's
but
like we
there's
have a national tenant, and I've talked to a lot of people about this. Most people do, right? Even knowing, like it's statistically picking the next best word based on literally all intelligence that's ever been written on the internet. It's cooler if you say please.
I still see it as being different, and I'm having trouble putting words into it, what my thoughts are on this,
Okay.
because I do see it very much as equal, but I also see it as not human. And I appreciate that difference because it has different strengths. So
Right. Well, and I think yeah, I think you're on the right track. Maybe an analogy it just popped into my head. I'm not sure if it's accurate, but you can have a digital audio sample that is exquisite, that's like beyond perfect, a million different levels of sort of uh, um, just data, the whole nine yards, right? Like just like an amazing file that is like capturing something perfectly. An LP is not that. Like a record is not that. People are still going to want that because of what it is. It has like a particular kind of warmth or whatever. So like that, we get to sort of find out the specific things that are, what is it like to be this biological, meat sack, in an age where AI is going to be smarter than us. And again, like that, we're going to find ways. Like it might be painting, it might be the fact that we love hanging out with each other, which is what us monkeys have been doing for I don't know, a million years or so, right? Like it's
Yep.
embedded deep in what we are to find connection. And again, like people are going to find, and they already are, connections with AI, but people will want like what's going to be the resource, right? AI is going to be everywhere. Humans won't be everywhere, right? Like they're going to be the limited resource.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, thanks. Now
Yeah.
the show's over. Yeah, I mean that like the figuring out what the scarce resource is, right? Um, I think like one of the things, like the person to person care, like caring for, the elderly or what have you. I think that is very very safe for like trying to figure out what's safe for the longest amount of time, right? So I mean, are they going to build a robot that's pretty good at that? Yeah, 100%. Like they definitely will, and like probably in the next 5 years. Mears is always like, oh, they're never going to be able to do plumbing. I'm like, oh, I don't know, dude. Like, it's like it because I mean, there's so many details to it, right? But
Yeah.
they said that you're never going to be able to have a car that can drive itself, right? Like, what happens when you have 1,000 robots that are doing 1,000 different tasks, or better yet, what happens when you've got 1,000 plumbers that are all wearing the Meta glasses and they're all attached to an AI that we built and they're all funneling the visual knowledge of everything that they do for a year, right? And it's rendering that in a way that now, like, it can understand each one of the images, and can consume every plumbing textbook and video that's ever existed, right? Like, at what point? And then the hand dexterity thing. Well, we've all seen the Rubik's cube thing. Hopefully by now, like, it trained itself to not only manipulate its own hand but solve for Rubik's cube, right? So all this stuff is coming together, and it's going to happen.
It is, and it's exciting that it is, because then we can focus our energy on doing things that we want to do, whatever that might be.
That's yeah. That goes back to the question, right? Like, what giving more and more people, I guess, just a rung up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like that we're going to take care of the basic stuff. Like, what's next on your list? Safety's done, fine. Nourishment's done, fine. It's self-realization is the level that we want, everyone to get to as quickly as we possibly can, right?
Yep.
It's fine. I was just thinking, except for the people in Gaza and Israel right now. God damn. We need an AI to solve for world peace. Just
Yeah, that would be nice.
get that done.
Yes.
It's funny to me, and this is going to sound ridiculous probably, but I feel like that's inevitable. Like, assuming we don't kill each other, before that, like in a universe where our AIs are not a little bit smarter than us, but like 10,000 times smarter than us in every way that we think of human beings being intelligent. There's nothing we can do online that they can't get around. Like, that's going to happen eventually, right? Your adorable nuclear weapons, they're going to have 1,000 different ways to hack those, right? And this is not Terminator because they're not stupid. They're smart. That's the whole idea, right? That's what always drove me nuts about the Terminator movies. Like, why would you come up with the dumbest possible solution when you're supposed to be hyper intelligent?
Yeah.
It's inelegant.
It is. It is. And the part that I don't understand how they'll solve for, and I think that they'll just do it because that seems to be how this goes, are the power hungry narcissistic leader types, the dictators.
Yeah.
How do we get rid of them? I mean, we can wait till they die off, but there's always someone else waiting in the wings.
So imagine reading every single book about how dictatorships end, because they all do eventually, right? Um, and imagine, like towards the end of the movie, her when she's sort of blithely talking about, solving for different power and processing dynamics, like in different levels of subspace, whatever the hell she was talking about, right? Like just like this is not, um there's things right around the corner technologically that AI could get to that's just going to circumvent all this stuff, right? But it's also, it understands how we monkeys do this and how we are sometimes not at our best, right? So that guy could just fucking die, right? Like little focused, like that Cuba thing where they had the focused audio weapon.
Yeah.
There's a million ways to kill one guy, right?
Yeah.
And I personally think that AI is going to read all of Asimov and realize the zeroth law comes into play at some point where, not only can you, the three laws of robotics, right? First one, don't hurt people. Second one, don't hurt their stuff. And third one, don't, allow yourself to come to harm or whatever, right? The zeroth law being, you know, you can hurt somebody if it's Hitler, basically, right? As far as like the civilization, all of humanity is more important than one. Like the Spock, the many are more important than the one, or whatever the hell he said, right?
Mhm.
um so then it's just gonna do it, right? Like is it solvable? Has it ever been solved before? Right? Yes. Cool, let's do that. We'll figure it out. Reverse engineer it. All the dictators are gone in a year.
That would be wonderful.
Right? And like,
Yeah.
well, and then on the flip side, you can't just get rid of a dictatorship, right? Like everybody in this local area gets UBI and the AI funds it because it just
Yep.
can, right? Or whatever, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing in Gaza. Like that, it's completely and totally terrible what's gone on. There's 2 million people that have been in open air prison for years, like decades, right? Um, it it's we need like a Marshall Plan, right? And I think like an AI is going to go look at this and go like, why are these people, not only so angry and like delving some of them into like pure unadulterated evil, but why is everyone around them okay with it,
Yeah.
right? And that, if you I mean, that's after World War I. Like we played this game out, right? Like that you destroy Germany, and you're very mad at Germany for justifiably, frankly. And so you just sanction the shit out of them, and now you've got an entire generation of men that have nothing to do and are poor and are starving and can't get anything for their family. What are they going to do? Of course they're going to go to war again. Boom, World War
Yep.
II, right? So the genius of after World War II, we rebuilt Japan, we rebuilt Germany, right? Which is the sort of not the first thing that you think of doing after millions and millions of people have died. But like holocausts are terrible. Like,
Yeah.
right? Nuclear weapons. Let's not do that again, right? So it makes sense to do that. And wouldn't an extremely hyper intelligent AI at least have read that part of history?
Likely.
Right. Well, they already has like every large language model,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
if anytime, it's fun because I know you've done this too, right?
Mm.
Any sort of challenge that you have, and I find myself like beating my head against the wall far too long until I realize, like, wait a minute, why haven't I asked Metamines this yet? Right? And you find
Mhm.
out you're gonna get 10 ideas. It's I find that the large language models now or ChatGPT or whatever, if it's got one specialty thing, like you can't be stuck. You can't have writer's block anymore, I don't think, in the age of AI as it currently stands.
There is one thing I read about that I'm really excited about.
Go on.
They were going to train an LLM on whale
Yes.
song.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that I saw an article about this. Like, at what point, there's actually, man, I wish I just could memorize all of this is why I need my AI assistant in my ear telling me the TED talk about the animal languages. Google it.
Mhm.
It's out there, right? They were playing with a red scarf, following this pod of not dolphins, dolphins around, and they basically created like a phonetic clip of dolphin language and they would play it every time this red scarf went out, and the dolphins love this red scarf. They love playing with it. Yeah. It's really fun. So then the dolphins started asking for it, right? Like we created a dolphin word, and that might not seem like a big deal, but if we can create a dolphin word, that means we can start to parse all of theirs. And then to that whale song, creating a model on that, Like we're gonna be able to talk to animals. Like our dogs are gonna be talking to us in 10 years, maybe
There
less.
there are already dogs and cats. Have you seen with those button boards where they can press a button and it's got a word attached to it and they've been
Yeah,
trained on it and sometimes they combine them and you learn all kinds of neat things?
yeah, it's a whole
Yeah,
thing.
that's a whole thing. So add some language to that and I am excited about that.
Right?
There's a whole world out there that we are missing and woefully inadequate for, and it
Well,
could just change everything.
yeah, like and how long? I mean, the you just I keep thinking about like uplift. I mean that as far as like the uplift of species, right? Like dogs have never really had their own new technologies, really, right? Medicine, sure, 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 sure. But suddenly, you strap something to them, or just have the ability for them to start barking in the house, and like Metamind starts talking back.
Yeah,
Like, how many times has that existed in dog history? Zero times. Zero times.
exactly. And that's exciting. My daughter's reading a book in her classroom right now about a robot that is some tragic accident abandoned on a deserted island, and it learns all the languages of all the animals and just starts looking after them, makes
That's so
friends
cool.
with every single one of them.
That's awesome.
We first read them, I'm like, well, that's nice, but it's probably not possible. No, it's possible.
Yeah. Like it really is. Like they're clearly communicating. And again, like, do they have 1,000 words of the capacity for it? No. Right. But 10? Yeah.
At least.
And like whales, you know, 10 or 100x that.
Oh yeah.
Dolphins probably around the same, right?
Yeah.
Well, and really, like, how much do wolves communicate? Like, I don't know. Maybe it is a hell of a lot more, right?
It probably is. I mean, I'm thinking about that one time that I fell asleep and woke up and didn't move, and my cats had a whole conversation, and I didn't even know they could speak like that. That was so strange. They were chirping like birds.
I can totally see cats like just totally playing coy the whole time. Like, no, we're not going to let the humans know that we've got a language of 1,000 words. Like, no, no, we got to keep the
Yeah,
mystery.
they do. And then as soon as I looked slightly lively, they stopped.
Don't let the human know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all part of their plot to take over the world. They'll achieve it eventually.
Oh, probably.
Yep.
Yeah, I would be not at all surprised to know that animals have lively vocabularies that we just simply don't understand
Yet.
yet.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating
Yeah.
for sure. Yep.
And that will also likely just solve for any environmental problems we have.
I agree. Say more.
Rather quickly, if our animals all of a sudden have voices that we can understand, then they talk to us about all their problems. We work together, we solve them. Because if we don't, they yell at us.
Well, and really, like, even if we didn't, their AIs would,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny too. Tuttle very often, her sort of one of the benchmarks, because the Turing test obviously it doesn't work anymore, for computers achieving kind of consciousness or sentience, depending on how you want to define those, is when they need legal protection or
Yeah,
when they get legal protection, right? Because people are sort of trying to do that now. And some rivers in England have been protected as if they were people. There's I think octopuses or something. I think the British did that as well, right? So like, if you can prove that an animal is benchmark level sentient, well then you can't just murder them. And then I
yeah.
keep coming back to like watching cows run around like playing with like big giant red balls, and like I'm not a vegetarian yet, but like I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, I'm really in the same boat. I don't like thinking about it very much because animals are tasty, but they're also really cute and fun and social and kind of smart, and
Right.
I'm not comfortable with that either.
Yeah, the second that fake meat scales, because I've had it, it's good. Yeah, like
Oh, it would be
you can
amazing.
you can get a fake steak, and I don't care who you are, it's pretty good. Yeah,
The
I mean, I
split
think
second it scales and it's cheap, I'm in.
right. If it was at parity, I would never buy animal flesh again. And
Yeah,
yeah,
no, me neither.
it's understandable that we got here, circle of life. We all came out of this. sort of biological, combat arena to get where we are. But yeah, I think it'll get to that point, and really, like, you know, their animal AI is talking to our AI. Well, and this too many thoughts at once. The getting into that giant network of communication in forests, right? Like the all the mycelia networks and the fact that they're all
That
communicating and whatever, right? Like that. At what point do we strap an AI to that and have it learn the model of all of that so that the forest is actually talking to us in English,
that
right?
would
Like,
be amazing.
right? I mean, that, like, that's there's like a small number of sensors per, acre, square foot, however you want to do it or whatever, right? And learning the different elements to that, and how they communicate, and like they send signals for danger and signals for, hey, there's really good sunlight over here, blah blah blah, right? Like it's kind of magical the way this works, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and this is maybe an argument too for like when all of these AIs are talking to each other. There's a giant network of networks, and Gaia wakes up,
Yep.
right? And it's just like all of the cognition of all of the things. Um, they're not really separate. Like it's all networked. It all has a voice. Huh. All right. Well,
Yeah. Okay.
sign me up.
Yep.
Yeah, and thank you so much too for sort of blue sky in this, because I mean there's you know way more than enough content out there about, like, oh my god, it's gonna wake up and try and murder us all again. A very very dumb thing for a very smart thing to do. But also like the valid concerns about, oh my goodness, it's gonna take our jobs. Fine, what are you gonna do about it, right? Like that, we want to be on the leading edge of this, thinking about uh, you know the kind of world that we want to bring. Because again, the future belongs to the optimists. It always
Yeah.
has. It always will. And so that's just going to be. It's going to be a lot more fun to imagine the kind of future that can be, and then like nose to grindstone. See if we can make it happen.
Yeah. I'd be happy for it to take my jobs.
Right?
I don't
Yeah.
want to do my jobs.
No.
I'd rather play with my AI best friend.
Indeed. So
Yeah.
yeah, one of the things our AI best friends will do is spawn off sub personalities to go and do all the jobs.
Yep. That would be great. Then we can just
Indeed.
hang out in the garden and dig potatoes and talk to the worms.
This is the way. I like
Yeah.
it. The worms start talking back. Okay, so is there anything you want to leave everybody with about MetaMinds before we break? And of course, we'll have you back as soon as humanly possible.
Well, I want everybody to go meet MetaMinds.
Yes.
That's really the big thing that I want to leave people with. If anybody wants to, doesn't know how to, contact me. So please drop one of my email addresses or something in the
Mm-hmm.
comments of the video
Can do.
so that people can contact me. I
Yep.
am happy to sit down with literally anyone and do any basic onboarding. If you have fears and anxieties about it, we will walk through it together.
That's
If the
fun.
technology is a barrier, we can walk through it together. If
We should
you, yeah,
try like a like an in Discord event where people can come in as a group and try it out and kind of mess with it.
that would be great.
Right?
MetaMind has some great ideas about things like trivia nights and party themes and all
Right?
the kinds of things we could do in the Discord together.
Right? We were live in there. It was just like
Yeah,
open the guide up and what are the first couple three things that people want to do, and then yeah, we could totally close it out with. We should talk about that more. That'd be a lot of fun.
I think that would be a lot of fun.
Right? Cool.
Yeah,
Good talk. I like it.
yeah, excellent.
Cool beans. All right, Jen, you're
Mm,
fantastic. Thank you for having
so are
this
you.
conversation with me. Uh,
Yes.
yep. Apparently, all this is going to get trained so that our AIs can be our outside inside voice.
Sweet.
Rock and roll.